Welcome to the Quantum Guide Show, where you will find interesting guests and discussions about cutting-edge topics to assist you on your journey. The Quantum Guide Show is ideally suited to the newly awakened and for those who feel isolated by their newfound beliefs. The mind, body, and spirit thrive when we have a mission, and there is no greater mission than to become the change that we wish to see in the world. So hit the like button, subscribe to my YouTube, Odyssey, and Telegram channels, and share this show with your friends. Welcome back to the Quantum Guide Show. Today in episode 109, my guest is Carmen Turner-Schott. And Carmen has recently written a book called Moon Signs, Housing, and Healing. We're going to talk about it today on the show. But first, let me give you a little bit of background about Carmen. So Carmen Turner-Schott is an author, a licensed clinical social worker, psychological astrologer, and teacher with national and international clientele. She is a published author of 7 books, and her 2 newest books are Sun Signs, Houses, and Healing, Build Resilience and Transform Your Life Through Astrology, and The Mysteries of the 12th Astrological House, Fallen Angels. Carmen has been researching the 8th and 12th astrological houses and trauma, healing, and transformation for the past 25 years. Carmen believes that everyone can benefit from understanding what makes them feel happy, passionate, and emotionally fulfilled. She has a new upcoming book, and today we're going to discuss how each moon sign heals, transforms, and helps you to become more resilient. The moon sign has a powerful influence on every area of your life. And I want to thank you, everybody, for liking, subscribing, and sharing this podcast with your family and your friends. Carmen, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm good. Thanks for having me. I love meeting different people that have similar interests, and we have a lot in common. That I found out when we were on the Aliens and Astrology show was it last week or a couple weeks ago? And so I was happy to come on your show and talk a little bit more about some of our similar interests in astrology and the moon and being social workers and, all of the things that led us into this kind of spiritual work.
Yes, so Carmen was on the last episode of Aliens and Astrology, so please do check out the show. I'll put the link in the description below. All the links will be in the description below. So yes, Carmen, so that's when I first met Carmen and found out that, you also have a background in social work. Obviously, we care very deeply about people and the human condition. Yes. And your journey led you to basically the study of astrology and then processing that information in such a way to produce a series of books that help people understand actually how it works. Now, I've heard a lot about astrology over the years, but I'm not real clear on how it works. So I took a look at the PDF you sent me, excuse me, of your upcoming book, and I went, oh my God, I can completely understand this. It's relatable. It ties into every aspect of our life. I got so excited. Carmen, tell us about your new book and how you got started and what led you to it. It's fascinating work.
Sure. So, it all started when I was in high school, when I was about 15, 16 years old. I always was different, felt different from everyone. I always believed in angels and believed, in life after death, and just had an interest in all of these mystical things. And at that time, I didn't even know what astrology is. I knew what astronomy was, but I didn't know what astrology was or, tarot cards. I didn't know anything about that. So what happened was I had these dreams that I would have that would happen. And I dream of something and it would actually happen. And that caught my attention. Like, why am I doing this? So I started researching dreams and getting dream books. And then I had an experience with a glowing ball of light in my doorway. And that changed me and got me really wanting to research more about why am I having these experiences and why am I just interested in all these things. So, what is so different about me, that most people around me and my family were not like me. So no one really explained to me like, oh, it's just your imagination, right? So I went into a little mystical bookstore and got my first astrology book. And when I read about Virgo, which is, my sun sign, I'm born on August 26th. So, I'm going to explain here in a minute how astrology works. I'm going to make it real basic. So everybody listening that has never really looked into it, you can understand a little better. But we each have a sun sign. The sun in the sky is in a certain star constellation when you're born. And so we look at, your birth date and your year, and we look at your time of birth and your place of birth. And the time is important, and I'm going to explain why. So we know that everybody born on August 26th is a Virgo. And we know that because the sun is in the star constellation of Virgo in the sky when you're born. So think of this, when you're born, when you're looking up at the sky, when each person's born, there's a unique blueprint going on in the sky. So each of the planets is in a certain star constellation, which are the signs. And there's 12 signs in the zodiac. And then there's, major planets. We usually use the 10 major planets, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, Saturn, and they are all going to be in a certain star constellation when you're born in the sky. And then what we do is we split the sky into 12 sections. This is the way I like to describe it. And those sections we call houses. And so we take a picture of that on the day, month, year, exact time, place of your birth, and we take a picture of the sky and put it on a piece of paper. And it looks like a wheel, and it is. It'll be a wheel with 12 houses, which are the areas of the sky. It'll have the zodiac sign that falls on each area of the sky will be on the wheel. You can see, okay, I'm a Virgo rising. And then I got, Leo, Libra on my first house. And then, and that means it was in that area of the sky. And that's how we interpret your chart to see where the planets are in the area of the sky, which are planets in the houses. We analyze that. We look at the planet, its energy, in the signs. So astrology to me is energy. So once you study the basics, which are personality traits, they're like psychology 101. Each sun sign has certain traits. Certain gifts, certain strengths, certain personality traits and gifts and things that they, manifest to the world. That's your sun sign. Everybody usually knows their sun sign and they'll read their horoscope in the paper, but that's just so basic. It's not as deep as it really is. Our chart is the map of the soul. This is what I call it. It's our soul's blueprint that we chose to be born and come into this earth realm at that time and place. And we choose our parents. This is what I've always studied that. And I always thought, people say, I don't think I chose my parents. And I believe we do. I believe everything happens for a reason. And we come in when we're meant to. Some people are born early. Some people are born late. Some people are born by C-section. It's scheduled. Some people, have a twin. And even twins charts can be slightly different because of the moon sign, which is our emotional nature, because of the rising sign, it's all about the time. So if twins are born 5 hours apart, the moon could easily switch signs because it only stays in each area of the sky and each sign for 2 to 3 days. And that moon moves pretty quickly, right, through each sign in the sky every day. And so depending on when you're born, your moon could be different than your twin, and you could be that's why, a lot of twins I've met have been different. They may look alike, but they're emotionally different. Mentally, they communicate differently. They may be the same sun sign, which they will be, but they will have a different emotional nature depending on where the moon is. And so, what I like to do is teach astrology on a basic practical level. And how I kind of started getting into bringing it into the practical is, as a social worker, working with children and teens is where I started, and then working with adults and trauma victims, people that have, experienced some type of trauma. I started noticing different things in people's charts. And I started collecting research for the past 25 years and on the sun signs, on different houses and different placements of things and what I've seen with people. And so I wanted to make it, wanted to write about it and make it a basic thing that everybody can understand. So, at work, I would always talk astrology in my daily life, you're an earth sign, you're a fire sign, you're a water sign, you're an air sign. We have the 4 elements. And so every sign is ruled by an element, just like in nature. And so when you know what element you are, you'll know, okay, who you get along with. And it kind of reminds me of it's called the 4 lenses. I got certified in that. And it's like a team building personality assessment that I would do with coworkers and people that at my job. And I realized this is exactly what astrology is. It's energy. And so in the 4 lenses, the oranges are the ones that like to wing it and they like fun and they like the excitement. They're bold, they're brave, they take risks, they're impulsive, they're fire. They're the fire signs in the zodiac. And then you got the blues, which are the emotional people, at work. They're connected to how do you feel? How are, people making sure everybody's happy and feeling supported. That's blues, right? They're known to be kind of kind-hearted and sensitive souls. And that's the water signs in astrology. And then you have the golds, and I would laugh in the class because the golds were very particular. They like tradition. They want things structured. They want things planned. And they don't like it when the oranges wing it, right? And just want to do, and they are the earth signs and the earth element. And then you have the greens, which are the thinkers. They're the innovators. They like to be a little rebellious and don't like to be told what to do. And they like to think outside the box. Well, those are the air signs. And so I noticed that those elements are the same in Myers-Briggs, 4 lenses, all these Jungian personality tools that people do. And so I started bringing it on a practical way and associating it with that at work or, with groups and people that I work with. And people really started feeling that yeah, that's me. Then I go, well, it's energy. And so let's look at the earth element, earth and water go together because in nature, earth and water, they help each other flourish. And then air and fire, air helps fire grow. And then, so they're the most compatible, elements in relationships, friendship, you're going to get along, with those elements, earth and water and fire and air, and then water and water, earth and earth, of course, fire and fire, they're going to be compatible. But if you're opposite, you're going to have more challenges, communicating and you'll just have a different personality. And it's funny, because most relationships, we're drawn to our opposite. We're drawn to what we lack in our own chart. So like my daughter, for example, she has a lot of earth and I've taught her all this stuff and she's like, Mom, it's so weird. I keep drawing air signs. All my friends are air signs and she has no air in her chart. Right. And I said, well, that's probably why, because you don't have a lot of air. And so she just really likes them and drawn to them, but then they don't really have a lot in common and they can annoy her, right, with some things. So she's like, I don't like how they don't communicate their feelings with me. I want to know what they feel, but they're not that way. They're intellectual. They're not really emotional. So she sees that. And I see that with couples, people that come to me for marital counseling or whatever. And, relationship advice. You can really see in the charts and look at different things, where the compatibilities are, maybe what some of the strengths are and weaknesses, things to work on. So I make it very basic and practical when I do a consult or when I talk to people about it. And I just describe the energy and try to invalidate what they already know about themselves. Because when I do your chart, you'll be like, you should be saying, that's me. How did you know that? And that's what most people say. If it doesn't fit, and you're like, this doesn't seem like me, what I find is a lot of people have the wrong time of birth. It was wrong. Either it wasn't on the birth certificate or their mother guessed, well, it was between 2 and 4, right? And if you don't have a really accurate time, it's going to be hard to get really an in-depth, deep personality profile, so to speak. And so it's important that you really get that time narrowed down as closely as possible. And if some people don't know what time they're born, and if they don't, there's things that astrologers can do. We can use 12 noon, as a standard and just kind of get an idea, because the planets will still be in the same sign, which are the star constellations. They just might be in a different area of the sky, in a different house. And that's what will change if you don't have the time. We can't narrow it down exactly, but you'd still know where your moon sign is, right? Your sun and some basic planets and energies that we could do a basic reading. But the reason I love the moon, we're talking, it's a full moon, right now, it was last night, and it's in Virgo. And Virgo is an earth sign, perfectionistic, a little bit of a worrier, productive, likes to get stuff done, likes to communicate, help people. So you may have been more motivated to get some tasks done and get organized and start planning of things you want to get done during this full moon. And that's kind of one of the most, I guess, scientific things that I tell people that tell me astrology, I don't believe in it. It's not true. And I'm like, well, do you believe in gravity? Do you believe in science? And they're like, well, yeah. I said, well, the moon affects the tides of the ocean. Why wouldn't it affect us? Because we're whole body's made of water. And they'll say, well, yeah, you're right. And so I remember when I worked with runaway teens, and I had a few people that were kind of skeptical, of what of me. And I talk about astrology a little bit at work, but I'm pretty private, when I'm in a job situation, unless I know people are open. And they'll often come ask me, hey, I dreamed this. What did it mean? They'll tell me their dreams and I'll analyze them and stuff. But I've done that my whole life for people. But they come in and I said, okay, guys, it's a full moon weekend. We need to watch. And you see a lot of our teens will be running away and at the police station this weekend. And they would just, and every weekend we come back Monday morning, they're like, Carmen, what was going on? I'm like, I told you guys it was a full moon. And so I explained it, how the moon intensifies our emotions and people get, there's research, more people report to the emergency room. There's more accidents. There's more domestic disturbances and arguments during the full moon. And, police officers will tell you this, ER nurses, and it's science. It's because our emotions are disturbed, they're heightened. We're more sensitive, and when you get sensitive, you take things personal and then you get upset and hurt. And, and so that's part of the full moon caution during a full moon is just to be a little bit more cautious about your feelings and your reactions. Right. And it'll pass because it's only a couple days and then it's not full anymore. And then knowing what moon sign you have, because, your sun sign, I'm a Virgo. And I was going to ask you, I think you might tell me, Karen, what's your sun sign?
It's actually Aquarius, and I was going to go dig out my chart, and I forgot to do that before the show to find out where my moon is. I can't remember, but Carmen, I wanted to say something about what you previously just said. It's interesting too that most women get their period on the full moon. So if that has such a powerful influence, not to mention when you get us together, we all synchronize our hormone cycles. That's very powerful. And as all of you out there know, you either are a woman or you've been around a woman, and how huge these the moon cycles affect us. And also, I have done work in the hospitality industry, and about 3 days, the day before when the moon is fullest and the day after, that's when all the stuff hits the fan and the sirens are going and everything. So you're right on. I actually notice as much influence from the moon as the sun, and maybe even a little bit more. So I'll let you just continue where you left off. So I'm Aquarius. Yeah, that's where my sun sign is. But I'm born on the 17th of February, so I am getting close to Pisces.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, to me, you have some Pisces energy. I do feel the Pisces when I always am drawn to Pisces. That's my, Virgo, Pisces are polar opposites. And what that means, every sign has a polar opposite. And when you hear the word polar opposite, you'll think, well, that means we're different. It actually means you're highly compatible and you have similarities, actually, because you always share traits of your polar opposite sign. You're going to have some of those traits, and they're going to have some of your personality traits. And health concerns, health issues, all of that, you typically share that with your polar opposite sign. So I always thought it was interesting. And, when I started looking at my moon sign, it all made sense because I was always shy, that's a Virgo thing. When I was younger, shy, a little bit quiet, a little bit observant. until I felt comfortable. And then I, talk a lot and I'm friendly and I like to learn things. And I definitely am a perfectionist, and I like things a certain way, and organized and all that. And I like to work hard. I'm a worker. I've always liked to accomplish things and work and learn. But I always wondered, why was I drawn to sports? Ever since I was little, I was a natural at sports. And, I played baseball, softball, basketball. My dad had me in all of these teams growing up, and I was always just natural at that. And then basketball became my thing, and I could shoot, and I would, really competitive, when I get out there, and I love being a part of a team. And I had this whole other side. And when I did my chart, I'm like, oh, my moon is in Aries. This is why I'm drawn to competition in sports and all of these things, right? And so that really explained my personality. And that was kind of an outlet for me, I think, growing up, that helped me express that strong moon sign of Aries, because I repressed it until I got on the basketball court or on the baseball field, whatever. That's when I would be Aries. But in normal life, I was Virgo. And so when I got older and, then I wasn't playing basketball anymore, I didn't have that physical outlet to release those intense, powerful emotions that the Aries moon has. And so Aries moon people tend to hold things in, and then if they lose their temper, they vent and they get it out, and then they're over it. They get over it quickly. Like, they don't stay mad. They don't. And my daughter, I only show it with my close loved ones, and they know me, that I don't stay mad long. I'll be over it and like, okay, let's go to dinner. But they'll still be holding a grudge because their feelings are hurt, because of something I said or something, right? But I definitely saw that I had this this Aries energy. I felt strong about things, but I didn't always know how to express it. And so that's why it's important to know what house the moon is in your chart. And mine was in the 8th house, which is the house of secrets and repression and, rebirth and death and transformation and all these deep things. And I felt so deeply, I didn't know how to express it in words. But I could do it when I was in a sport, on the basketball courts, kind of where that Aries came out. And now I do it through listening to people and their trauma and their problems and help them heal. And it's the house of healing. So I've ended up going into the healing profession, and interested in Reiki and all those things, pranic healing, and been trained in all that. And I love that. And I believe that, energy is powerful, and that's what astrology is. It's energy, and it's practical. And once you know the basics, I love teaching basic courses. I'm thinking of offering something online this year, just Astrology 101, Astrology, a map of the soul. I used to do those workshops in person for the ARE, and I would do all the basics. What are the planets? What are the signs? What are the houses? Putting it all together, and making it real basic for anyone to understand. And that's kind of what I did with my book, Sun Signs, Houses, and Healing. And then now my new book, Moon Signs, Houses, and Healing. It comes out in May. The whole introduction chapter is the basics of everything. So if you don't know anything about astrology, you can buy my book and read it, and will understand more about yourself, how it all works in a basic way. I don't get mathematical. I don't get in depth with it. I try to make it very simple. And that's my goal in writing about this, is to make it a hands-on practical tool that anyone can pick up. Yeah. And use.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I love it. Carmen sent me the PDF of the new book that's coming out, and I just loved it. It not only gives you the information in an easy to digest, and then as you grow and learn more, it stacks on top. But she's included all kinds of things, like, for instance, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where if you don't feel safe, you're not going to care about self-actualization, and how that all ties in also with your moon sign. And I was absolutely blown away by how amazing it is for really getting what you're trying to teach us into us, so that we can really understand it, because a lot of astrologers go right over my head. And you've just done a beautiful job of this book. So yeah, please tell us more.
Yeah, it's astrology, and this is the thing I love about it, is that you can spend your whole lifetime studying astrology, and I'm still learning. I mean, there's so many different things and so many different types of astrology and charts and theories, and and there's a lot of professional astrologers out there. I'm very different than most because I don't get in, I'm not as technical. Almost I'm not as technical. I look at transits, I do look at all that, but I use it more as a psychological tool. A personality tool is what I use it for. And, and I don't want to confuse people. So when I look at charts, I know how to pull up different ones and things, but I keep it very much in the now, like what's going on in your life. How can I help you, and link that in with your soul mission, which is the north and south node in the chart. So I focus a lot on that too, which has to do with the moon's nodes. It's a calculation point that astrologers calculate, and it's hard to explain it, but just know that it's like a horseshoe thing looking in your chart. There's an upside down horseshoe and a top up. That's your nodes, and they show what your soul mission is this lifetime. So I really focus in on that and tie that into the energy and the past lives and the things that you've already mastered, and try to help answer any questions I can, with health, compatibility. But every astrologer is different, and I'm always learning. I wrote a 12th house book. It's the Mysteries of 12th House Fallen Angels, and that book was really a different kind of book too. And there's been some astrologers that have kind of said, they called it Pollyanna rubbish. I got a bad, you go on Amazon and people rate your book. I have like 58, all 5 stars except like 1. And, so there's always going to be people that don't agree. They're like, this isn't astrology. This is what they say, some like column or something. No, it is astrology. It's my research. And everything in that book is my own experience with the 12th house and with clients and people that are 12th housers. All of those stories come from them and the different experiences. And that's real research, in my opinion. So I believe in that book because I spent like 20 years researching that house, and that those are the situations that happened for a lot of people. Planets there, there's my dog's hearing something.
That's okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. Don't worry about it.
But 12th house people are very sensitive. They're empathic. They have these mystical experiences they can't explain. And my son's in the 12th house and my Venus, and that validated all of those things that happened to me when I was a kid. And as my life now, and why I dream things. And I created a Facebook group on the 12th house and 8th house, both. And I have members from all over the world, about 15,000 people. And in that group, I learned that everybody was like me. And all these people had 12th house sun, 12th house planets, and they shared the same spiritual experiences. And they can't explain them, but they had them, and so there's a camaraderie there. And I wrote the book for 12th house people, really, as I wrote it for people in my group to let them know they're not alone, and that there's a purpose and there's a reason they went through what they went through in their struggles. And so they could become spiritual and have a spiritual path. That's like the mission of a 12th house person. Is to be on a spiritual path and to help other people. And so, once they realize that, it all makes sense, of why they went through, maybe a loss of a parent, all kinds of things, heartbreak at a young age, or, whatever happened, always happened to lead them to seeking, why are they here? They realize they're not a body, they're a soul, and there's a purpose, and they always know it. And they believe in angels, all these things. So everyone I meet, a lot of times on these shows, they have 8th and 12th house energy somewhere. They have something in the 8th or 12th, or Pisces or Scorpio. And I'm able to kind of tap into that, and connect with them. But I love astrology. I love to teach about it and talk about it and make it less scary, and because a lot of people are like, oh, it's so much math. In the old days, I used to do charts by hand, and I was really intimidated because I'm not good at math. I hate math. But I would draw the wheel, and I got the rulers, and a friend of mine at the time, he was an astrologer. He would help me and taught me, and we learned. And then these cool computer programs came out. It was just like back in 1995 or something. And it was amazing. And so then it did all the math for us. And and now, you just put the stuff in. You can go to astro.com, anybody listening, and get a free chart, get a free art wheel is what we call it, the wheel. And then you can start looking up, okay, what's that symbol? That's the thing with astrology. It's a symbolic language. Everything is symbols in that chart, and you got to kind of know them.
Mm-hmm.
You got to kind of know the symbols to be able to analyze the energies. And so I used to write the symbols over and over for the planets, for the sign, and then I spent years.
You've got all of that in your book, all of it laid out so simply, so simply. I just love it. I really encourage everybody to check out Carmen's book that's just coming out. I guess people can get on the wait list for it, or how would they go about ordering?
If you can go on Amazon.com and Barnes and Noble, Books A Million, and you can what's called pre-order, which is something that I'm learning is a big deal in the publishing world, which I didn't know, but they really like you to get a lot of people to pre-order your books before they release. It's something that publishers really focus on. So I'm telling everybody, pre-order now, and then as soon as the May 8 date comes, it gets shipped right to you. And so the official release is May 8, and you can always wait till May and then order it, and it'll get shipped right away to you. But if you pre-order, that means they have enough copies for you, and you'll get the first copies, in case they run out or whatever. But you can get those, and right now they're available. And then I got my sun signs, houses, and healing book that I'll show it. It's like a teal color. And the moon signs book is exactly like this, but purple, and has the moon in here. So, and it's like, it's good to have both the sun and the moon. It's kind of a duo, so to speak, that they wanted me to write the moon book. Once this was released, they realized, it'd be good to have a companion book. And so I did so, but I'm excited about both books. I'm hoping people, find them, and people, that don't know anything about astrology can read them. If someone's an advanced astrologer, they may think my book's too basic, and that's why, I make it clear, in there, it's a basic book, a practical hands-on approach. And I do add a new approach. I mean, even advanced astrologers have told me they liked it, because what I do is I talk about practically how these traits and energies make us more resilient, how they help us heal and build and gain comfort. So for instance, the moon, the moon is where we find emotional security and satisfaction and comfort. So knowing what sign it's in and what house it's in is really beneficial, because that shows, okay, this is where I can feel better. If I focus in this area of life, I'm going to feel more emotionally happy and supported and less depressed, and, those kind of things. And then you'll know where your strengths and weaknesses are, of each moon sign, and each moon sign, also heals in a different way. And self-care, that's a big thing in my books. I talk about how each sign can do self-care and what activities are good for them. And self-care is really about taking time for yourself, because most people, as as a social worker, we're givers, we're always helping other people and doing things for others. And we have to learn to do things for ourselves and find what helps us feel better, because it's going to be different for everyone. And one thing I research is I find that, the 4 elements, the earth signs, the water signs, the air signs, and the fire signs, that I hit them all: fire, air, earth, and water. They all do self-care differently. The sun signs and the moon, because they have totally different ways they express their energy. And so for instance, like, the sun in Cancer people, they may self-care by, they like to withdraw from the world, be at home, be in quiet, listen to music, read, cook, be with their family, spend time with their animals, their pets. And that to them could be very relaxing, very self-care. But to an Aries, they would probably go nuts and be very restless, because they're active. They want to be moving. And so they like movement, they like action, they like competition or adventure, go hiking out in the woods, right? Play a sport, go shoot hoops. That might be a self-care thing for Aries. Sages, they like travel. They like to be moving too. They like to be outdoors, and they don't want to be cooped up inside at a desk or in a room, right? Just and not be able to be on the go, seeing and interacting. So each of the signs has things that will benefit them. So I go over that in each chapter, just based on people that I've known, friends, family that are different signs, the moon sign and sun. And I give the tips, different affirmations that they can, say to be positive. And the thing with the moon is that the moon is associated with the mother. And so when we look at a chart, as an astrologer will say, okay, we usually experience our mother based on what sign the moon is in. And so we see our mother as that kind of trait, even though, my mother's a Sagittarius sun, but I have the moon in Aries. So I'm going to see my mother as more of an Aries type figure. And so that has to do with our nurturing. Our mother is, what we see for nurturing, things like that. And so I always joke because my daughter's got a Capricorn moon and she's been studying this stuff, and she's like been on me, that I work too much, that I'm always working. I have 2 jobs. I don't ever just relax. I'm like, no, astrology is my hobby. She goes, no, it's a job. You're writing books. It's a job. You really have 2 jobs. I'm definitely a Capricorn moon. That's what she said, because she sees me as a Capricorn. And I'm like, no, but it's fun to me. It's not like my normal job, which is a job, but she's right. I'm always like to produce and be working on something. I do. I don't just want to do nothing. You know what I mean? I'm always like a goal. I have goals and I like to be working on things, but I also like to veg out and watch Netflix with my dog too. Right. So, but she sees me as that Capricorn energy, and yeah, and it's interesting. And then my mother, I definitely see her as like independent, self-assured, blunt, straightforward, and so when in the book, I focus on each moon sign and how you maybe, your interactions with your mother, maybe some things you had in childhood, and then also looking at the house. And then we also look, if you had a missing or absent mother figure, there's things in the chart that can show that. And that nurturing and that motherly energy may have came through a grandparent or an aunt or a father, so that's kind of the nurturing element that you'll have in your life is looking at where your moon sign is, what sign it's in. And that's how you have experienced nurturing. That's how you nurture yourself. And then knowing what house it's in, you'll know, okay, that's the area of life that emotionally you need to focus on, because that's where you're going to find comfort, security, stability. And, and I kind of talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs in the intro, and link it in with the moon sign, because it's so true. Those basic security needs are the moon. The moon needs to feel secure and safe before it can express itself. And so I try to give tips about that for each sign, so, and make it real basic, and I talk about the full moon, how the full moon affects each sign, each moon sign. And that's big. And because that could be different for each moon sign, depending on, the energy, what element, where your moon is. If it's Aries, Sag, Cancer, Pisces, Virgo, it's going to be different. So you can look up your friends, look up their moon signs, their sun signs in the sun signs book, look up your coworkers and learn about other people. And it's just, my goal with astrology, it's a tool of self-awareness to help us understand ourselves and others. And then if we use it in that way, we will understand people better, and we won't take offense. And we're like, okay, this is their personality. They're not doing this deliberately to be mean or hurt us, or sometimes they're not even aware of it. It's who they are. And we'll see those traits. And I'm like that. It's helped me. Get along with people. I feel like I can adapt to almost any kind of person. Once I kind of feel their energy, and I know, we may be opposite. I may annoy them or rub them the wrong way, but I'm always able to overcome that and adapt to them. And because I can see, especially if I have their chart, or if I at least know their sun sign, I can see those traits, because there's, like at work, I had a person at work that is very good at briefing and selling things, and can very charismatic, they're a Leo. And I'm like, they're the person you want up on stage talking, trying to get something done, right? Because they're eloquent, they're charming, they're, but they also like to be in the limelight, and they tend to take credit for things. And and they want to be, like a little child and want to be the one that gets that, applause, and sometimes that can hurt when you did a lot of work too, but you're not recognized, because, Leos like to be recognized, and they often are. Naturally, they get recognized, and they usually are in the public eye, politicians, musicians, artists, actors. A lot of them are Leos. And you can see this in the world, when you start looking at people's charts. I love looking up celebrities, or you can watch, different movies, and I'll be watching a movie and I'm like, they got to be a Scorpio. And just the way they act, the way their eyes look, the way they come, their energy, and they are, I'm usually right when I guess, and I'll try to feel someone out. They're like, okay, what do you think my chart is? I'm like, and I had a boss years ago who was a psychiatrist who found out I was interested in astrology, and he was as well, which was, very rare to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And he came down, he said, I want you to do the charts of all of my staff. And I did all their charts, and I did a little team building, and we went over the basics, and they were just amazed at how accurate it was. These are psychologists, licensed social workers, and they really enjoyed it. And they said, yeah, there's something to this. Sorry, my throat's dry, but, okay. And they're like, yeah, this is really, accurate. And how does this work? And I said, well, it's science, it's energy, just like you do an assessment on someone's symptoms. It's like an assessment. It's like a personality assessment. And it was funny because when I first met him, when he heard that I was into this stuff, he came up to me at a restaurant and he said, what do you think my rising sign is? And it kind of caught me off guard because I didn't know. And at first I looked at him, I said, well, first of all, I think you're Scorpio. And he just kind of looked at me, and he goes, I'm a Scorpio sun. And then I looked at him, and I looked at his physical appearance, because, the rising sign is typically how we look physically, how people perceive us and feel our energy. It's like the mask we wear. When you first meet someone, you usually pick up on their rising sign. And this is just practical advice I'm sharing with you guys. Typically, what you see is not what you get. Their sun sign is usually not what you first pick up on, or their moon. You're picking up on the rising sign. And like I said, you'll have to have an accurate time of birth, place, everything to get that rising sign accurately. But I looked at him and I said, you're Taurus rising. And he said, I am. How did you know that? I said, well, because you have broad shoulders. He was stocky, and he had you have a very earthy, grounded, like a bull. He said, yeah, I am. I'm a Taurus rising. And so I notice, or someone's real tall and they're on the go. I'm like, you're Gemini rising. Then I'll look and do their chart. They're Gemini rising. So it's energy. And I'm just intuitive. I can feel energy, and I know that there's something to it. And it is, it's always kind of been a tool that I find accurate. I can't convince everybody until, they'll have to experience it themselves. It's kind of like when I was growing up, I used to always say, if I see it, I'll believe it. And that was my motto. And a lot of things I did see and experience, and that's why I'm open-minded. And I believe there's a lot more to our personality, our life, of why we're, of why things are the way they are. And there's a lot of things we don't know and that we're learning. And I love astrology because I can spend my whole life learn something, and I'll learn something new. Like,
check out my website and find many valuable resources. There's the 9 Steps to Quantum Health Transformation. This is a free, comprehensive online course. Learn about detoxification and nutrition, grounding and spiritual practices, and an advanced version of the Law of Attraction, giving you more of what you really want out of life. I also have my Zendomes Orgonite, which is my unique brand of orgone generators. They're ethically sourced and handmade by a friend of mine, and they're double charged for maximum effect. I also carry Comfort Crystals, which is a limited collection of energetically infused semi-precious stones. I have an array of vital services so you can get the one-on-one support that you've been looking for. Also coaching, guidance, and I do assessments and also workshops. And then again, there are the many free resources available on my website. Wisdom to assist with energetic ascension into physical, mental, and spiritual paradise. Let us share our quantum work with you. It's your turn to heal, evolve, and thrive. Believe in your ability to succeed. Now, let's get back to the show.
I just learned something about, it's called astrology. It's called perfection years. And some people were posting in my group, I'm in my 12th house perfection year. What does this mean? So I'm like, I Googled it and I literally learned something new. I mean, I'm always learning something new about astrology. And then I realized, guess what? I'm in my 12th house perfection year right now. So this was important that I saw that, because I've been having a hard time this past year. And that's because it's more challenging when you're in a perfection year. Everyone has a perfection year through each house. It kind of, works. And if you Google it, you'll see the grids. It all comes up, and Google's amazing. You can find out anything you need now on astrology on Google. But that was something new that I learned. And I'm like, wow, that's really, really beneficial. And so I'm always learning and open-minded to other people. And, and a lot of astrologers, they're very technical. They see as very mathematical, very, even reading some articles of some professional folks, it can be over people's heads. It can be hard to understand. And that's why, I make it basic.
I really appreciate that. I have a question for you, Carmen.
Yes.
A long time ago, I'm someone who has visions, and I don't always know what they mean or when they're going to come to fruition or what. I just get visions. Anyway, one of the ones that I received, and this is a long time ago, probably 30 years ago, was that the whole universe is like the inside of a pocket watch. So, inside a pocket watch, there's all the little gears and they're all synchronized.
Yes.
And so it showed me that all the planets had their own, imagine like a cog that, connects with another cog that sets things in motion. And when it came down to the earth and to us, that we were all little cogs, but even the bugs and the animals and everything is little cogs, and it all works perfectly synchronized together. And what I might take home from that was to let stuff go, because there's so much beyond our control, and we're not maybe even supposed to worry about so many things. And then that sort of takes us back to the self-care thing you were talking about. I just wondered if you had anything to say about that.
Yeah, I love that analogy of the watch. I do see that like everything has a purpose and is connected. Everything's connected. And one of the things I realized is that, I got trained in the Akashic records, and, open up my record, open up others' records. And when I open up records before I do a chart. And before I look at someone's chart at all, I open up their record and I handwrite what comes through. I'll see images, I'll feel energy. And very specific imagery comes to me, and I call it it's a life seal reading. It's something like Edgar Casey used to do, symbols. And I'll just handwrite. And then I'm like, okay, what does the ladder mean? And I'm writing, what does the horse mean? Whatever symbols are in that person's seal. And then when I pull up their natal chart, it's connected. It's really amazing. And I realize the connection in it. That's why now I do that for all of my clients. I always open up their Akashic record. I share with them the symbols, and I record that and the natal chart interpretation. So, but it always is connected to their North Node, their soul mission, the planets and the houses and everything. It's just amazing. And it's like they're one and the same. The energy in the soul record is in the chart. And I had a psychic friend who years ago, she's a very good friend of mine. She was born with a gift, and she didn't know anything about astrology. And she would see people's future. She would see things and have these visions. And she tried to help people or prevent things from happening, or trying to advise them to help them. And she was born this way ever since she was young. And what happened was when she met me, she shared some things with me, and no one would know. And she knew and saw some things that ended up happening that she had shared with me years later. And what I did is I taught her astrology, and everything. I would pull up charts, and when I would talk to her about the chart, it was exactly what she had seen in the record, and whatever she was seeing. And I said, I think you're reading the soul records. She just didn't know what it was. And she's like, then she got into astrology and she's like, yeah, that is what this validates what I saw, because, she couldn't explain, but she just saw stuff and felt it. And so the chart validated what she was seeing. And then she's like, okay, I need you to teach me this. So I've taught her the basics, of Western astrology, because she knew, Chinese astrology. She knew the Eastern because she was from Korea. But I taught her some of the basics. But my thought on self-care is, as a social worker, I find, and right now in my career field right now, I feel like we don't take care of ourselves enough. And we're givers. I think people that aren't in the helping professions also aren't taking care of themselves either. But people in the helping professions, we get compassion fatigue, we get burned out. We did an assessment of people that are in my career field recently, and the results were like 80-90% are burned out. They report burnout within the last year. They report 80% compassion fatigue, because you're hearing people's traumas over and over again, and you're responding in crisis situations, but you're hearing of people's greatest pain and worst day of their life over and over again. And you're there to heal, you're there to help and be positive. And you take that on, I think our body absorbs that. I got a friend that's doing a research project, a dissertation, getting her PhD on this topic, on compassion fatigue, self-care, and especially in the help in people that work with trauma survivors and all this, and the illnesses, the amount of female reproductive problems she's finding for people that are in the helping professions, that aren't dealing with their stress or self-care, and they're getting cysts on their ovaries, they're getting issues with their periods, all of these different things, cyst on the breast, all of a sudden within a year they have a bad mammogram, all of these things are happening. Their immune systems are lower, they're getting strep throat, they're getting COVID a lot. She's linking that with the stress of the kind of work that people do. And it was interesting because I've taught self-care workshops to people for years, advocates, coworkers, and I still have to hold myself accountable, because I still have to make myself self-care. And sometimes I'm not doing good. I mean, I'll be honest, I'll go 4 months where I haven't did the right things, exercise, eating right, not reacting to things. I've been reading the Serenity Prayer. I can't control it. If I can't control it, just let it go. Like you said, there's things we just cannot control. And so I have to do affirmations myself to follow these things. It's kind of like when I took classes in applied metaphysics. I remember I learned all these spiritual laws and all these things, right? And then the whole thing, the key is you have to apply them. You can read and learn and study all of these spiritual things and know that they're true, but if you don't apply them in your own practical life, they're not going to happen. And
Ain't that the truth? I got to tell you, I wish I had $1 for every time people would approach me or contact me, and they want my experiences and they want the things that I've been able to do, but they're not willing to do the things that I had to do to get there. So I think astrology, like anything else, is not going to make a magical, perfect life for us, but it helps us to understand what the hell's going on, so we can choose to make different choices. I myself got really burnt out at university. I'm actually still recovering, and my recovery has been putting in place a self-care program. And I actually take a day timer and I will map out my self-care times and the things that I need. And I don't try to change everything overnight. I just make small baby steps towards eating better, towards meditation, towards having more harmonious relationships with my family. But I definitely see how astrology can really help us get a grip of what the hell's going on. Because
Exactly.
I don't know, maybe it's just me, but boy, I think I did not realize what was going on, not easily.
See, you're an air sign, Aquarius. You like to think and communicate. You like, you're the sign of humanitarian causes and helping groups of people and being, non-traditional, thinking outside the box, being creative, being innovative, and being questioning authority, questioning why do we have to do it this way? Things that aren't inclusive or don't make sense. So a lot of Aquariuses, they self-care different than most people because, you are an air sign. So your mind is active. So it could be harder to sit and meditate, because, when you read about self-care, like, okay, do breathing exercises, meditate, just quiet your mind. Some signs cannot quiet their mind. The meditation is more stressful to them. It stresses them out when you tell them, let's meditate and let's breathe. That does not help them. They need to be outdoors, walking in nature, doing a puzzle, coloring a mandala, whatever they got to do. It has to be more physical action or movement based and distracting their mind. Because when you're an air sign, you're always thinking, you're in your head a lot. The water signs tend to have an easier time meditating and withdrawing, so that's their classic self-care things: yoga, tai chi, moving energy, breath work. Breath work is good for everybody, but I learned different techniques. I try to bring in and something recently I learned was called the Havening technique. And what it is, you can research it, you can get trained in it, but there's videos, but it's just these movements, you do your hands like this, and what it is, you just breathe. And what it is it triggers that part of the brain where trauma happens, and it tells the brain you're safe. Then you touch your face, it's real simple. And then you hug yourself, and you do just 3, this is the self-care for Havening technique. And you do this, and then you can do it on yourself. So I'll do it. If you're feeling anxiety or tension or just any, not grounded, just do those simple 3 techniques. And I'll do it when I'm on the couch or if I'm at the desk, and it helps me, just feel better. And it triggers that part of the brain. And then you can teach it to other people, your clients, if they're upset or distraught. And so, I try to incorporate those things and do the things like you said. And the thing is, you have to hold yourself accountable because, an example too is that, it's like, you can talk the talk, but do you walk the walk, So I was teaching some of my folks, training them about self-care and everything, people that I work with that are out there. And they look to me because I'm kind of not their supervisor, but I'm sort of like a functional. But what happened was, the one girl said to me, she was an advocate. She says, I realized that I've saw that you've been taking more leave and you've been out of the office more. So I thought, well, if Carmen can take leave, I should be able to take leave too. So she was taking leave, and she said, that helped me. I said, well, thank you. I said, I hope I was a good role model to take, a day or two, and then, and I had somebody at work, asked me, what do you do for self-care? Ask me. And at the time I was burned out. I was really stressed. And I said, well, let me think. I said, once in a while, I'll take a Friday off. That's what I will. Once in a while, I'll just take leave for a Friday just to be off work, and I just stay home. I don't really have a plan. I just watch TV, catch up on a show I like, or work with, on a book, or cuddle with my dog. And I have to do that. But it took me a little while to answer that because, and that's when I started working on it this past year. Since that, they asked me that question, and I've been, doing that. And then when I was in a class last year, it was April, I think it was April of last year. I took a class about leadership, and it was through Washington University, and we got to interview or sit down with leaders in the community that were really successful people that just work all the time. They're busy. And we got to ask them one question. I asked all of them, what do you do for self-care? And none of them could answer. They said they don't.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Carmen, for me to survive intact, to be able to do the things I want to do with this body and spirit, my whole life is now self-care. So earlier I talked about these baby steps. Well, they add up and they pay forward. So then I get
Yeah.
into a good habit on, for instance, I do a lot of weird things, like I take spirulina and chlorella and
Yeah.
fusoidin and things like that, which help me to detox every single day. I go for walks every
Yeah.
day. I have my life very structured but flexible, so that if I have a day and I'm feeling horrible, I can still survive. And I also don't leave things to the last minute. So for instance, preparing
Yes.
for this show, I did that on Monday, just in case I had a
Yes.
bad day on Tuesday, which I didn't, but you never know, right?
You
So
never know.
I think like today's International Women's Day. And I think the one
Yes.
thing I want to say to women, actually to everybody, is yes, get on the self-care, because it's
Yeah.
important. We matter. We can do this. And it makes such a difference, because there's things I want to do. And I
Yeah.
spent a lot of time being sick and being burnt out. I don't want
Yeah.
to do that anymore. Sorry, I didn't
No.
mean to go off and on and
Oh, I love
on
that.
about it, but it's just, I
Oh, I
can't
love that.
stress it enough. And the fact that
Yeah.
you've tied that all in with astrology is so fantastic.
Thank you.
And I'm just so excited about finding your books,
Thank you.
having you on the show. And of course, I really want to have you back. Now we've got a little bit more time, and I'm wondering if you could do me a favor. Last time you were on the Aliens and Astrology show, we talked a little bit about fallen angels. Now,
Yeah.
I myself have had this weird experience throughout my life where I felt that I wasn't actually a regular human, that
Yeah.
somehow I was placed here. And this is the interesting part. It's almost like everything that happens to me, good, bad, or ugly, is
Yeah.
somehow being recorded, or is somehow, like, for instance, if someone's absolutely horrible to me, often it's almost like I'm a device. Whereas as I go out into the world and interact with people, they're being, for lack of a better word, judged. They're being judged. Their karma is being adjusted. Their life journey is being adjusted on the way they treated me. And maybe it was just a psychology for me to be able to cope with some of the things I've been through. I don't know. And I'm not saying I'm a perfect human being either. Please don't get me wrong. But
No,
I
I know.
know I'm a good person. And I know a lot of people aren't. And there is a difference. And I don't 100% get it. And I wondered, because you spoke about
Yeah.
fallen angels before, what's your take on all that?
Oh, yeah. Exactly what you said. So I'd love to see your chart to see if you have 12th house planets, because an eighth, because that's a very common thing, especially with people with 12th house planets. And I was the same way. I felt like I was an alien. I wasn't from Earth. I didn't belong here. And I always felt like, was I adopted? Even when I was little, I don't know where those thoughts came from. Like you said, I always felt like I was just like I had been an angel in heaven, and I fell to this earth. And I felt like people hurt me all the time. I was so sensitive. And people, if they were mean to me, I would cry. Like I had no shell, like no protection. I was just, kind of in shock on, surviving really in the real world. And like we fell
Yeah.
well, I call it fallen angels, because 12th house people are people with a lot of Pisces, and they are angels who fell to this lower realm for a special purpose. And that's how they feel. And they all share this with me, that they always felt like they were adopted or from an alien, or they're not from Earth. They know they're not from here. They know they're a soul. They know that they're not from here. And their parents aren't really their parents. They're that's not their true parent, which is, they believe in God. They believe in a higher power naturally. So everything you're saying is very much what my experience has been, and what led me to studying astrology. And I meet people that tell me the same thing all the time. And the biggest thing that I had to learn to have boundaries, and to tell people no, and stand up for myself, because I let people walk all over me for most of my life. And now I'm stronger, but it's like I had to go through, I don't like feeling like I have to protect myself, but now I'm older now and wiser, and I'm going to stand up for myself now. I didn't used to. I mean, I would just let people treat me horribly, and I'd still give. And I had to learn that lesson. And now I'm like, you know what? you're being pretty negative and I don't appreciate it. And I don't want to be around it. So I'll kind of stand up in a nice way. It's like being kind, but firm. I've always been kind, but I had to learn to be kind and firm with certain people. But it's really interesting. Something you told me as part of my research, people that have 12th and 8th house planets often tell me this, and this is something that happened in my life. People that hurt me, things happen to them. And like you said, and I don't do anything. I don't have to lift a finger.
No.
And I call it karma. And I mean, it's like all of a sudden, years later, something will play out right in front of me, and and I get kind of like, whoa, wow, this same thing they did to me is happening to them now. Or I'll hear. And another thing that typically happens with people like us, I call us fallen angels, is that people that hurt us always beg for our forgiveness. They always come back and they tell us they're sorry. I really loved you. Will you forgive me? They always try to come back into our life. And I got to where I would be like, I forgive you, but no, I can't be your friend anymore. I'm not going to talk to you. I forgive you. I have no ill feelings towards you, but no, I'm not going there. And sometimes I just won't, I'll just block or I ignore because I'm not even going there. But, and it happened this past year. It always happened. Someone that hurt me real bad years ago, just a toxic person. And it was in my work area years ago, started texting me saying, how are you? I miss you. And I'm thinking, why are you coming back? They always come back and want some kind of us to, I guess, peace of mind. That we're okay with them. And I think in a way, they think that maybe something about what they did to us, they think that, are we cursing them? Are we,
we would never do that. We would never do that.
No.
We many of us practice what I would call radical forgiveness.
Yes.
And it isn't that you're forgiving them for what they did. You're just forgiving them so that you can move on, and they don't even come into your mind anymore. They're, you just turn it over and you go on loving and being good, right?
Yeah,
and I agree. And they don't do so good. My son is also a very angelic human being, and he's had some terrible employers. And every time he goes, that's it, I'm leaving the job, he gives us notice. He's such a good man. And then something not so good happens to the business owner. They end up going out of business. They can't get reliable help anymore, whatever. And so, And so the other thing is I'm very tight with what I perceive as being my guardian angel.
Yeah.
And so it seems like we have this really amazing connection also with the spirit realms. So
yes,
I wouldn't change the way I am for anything. But I've learned a lot now. I don't take shit from anybody.
Me neither.
If I get a bad feeling, like the biggest thing for me was to learn to listen to my internal emotional spiritual sensor.
Yes.
And I used to always override it with my mind saying, oh, give them the benefit of the doubt.
Me too.
You want to be forgiven if you've done something, but those laws don't apply to some people.
I know.
If it's happened once, it could happen again. No, I'm not taking the chance. I'm not going back for more.
And that's how I was. I had to learn the hard way. It's like to listen to my gut instinct. I'm like, I knew that they were going to do that to me. I knew, and I ignored it. And I'm like, no, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to, and they continually things to hurt me. And even in my life still, it happens all the time where I know people's motives. I know, and I know they're not good towards me. And I can't figure out what is it about me that makes people do this stuff. And this is what I used to say, what is it? And I don't know. It's kind of like the way I explain it. What I really think it is that, and it's a 12th, 8th house thing, is that we serve as mirrors for other people. And anything they haven't healed or dealt with, it's like when they look at us, they feel vulnerable. They also want to tell us all their problems. I've always had that. They'll want to come and attach to me. They'll be either really drawn to me or they will be repelled by me. Just my presence in the room. I don't have to say anything. I can smile and be the nicest thing. I can do everything for people. Bend over backwards, do everything to help them. And I still have people that I feel like are secret enemies. And and that's a 12th house thing, secret enemies. I have a whole chapter about it in my Fallen Angels book.
Oh, isn't that amazing?
I do. And I wrote an article about it. And a lot of 12th house people share with me, they always feel like hurt by people that they thought were their friend, but they really were against them. They're enemies. And the thing that I just always ask for is dreams, because I often dream things that prepare me or show me someone's true feelings towards me. And I'll know. And it's sad. It hurts me. Like I wish, but I'll dream it. And then the whole thing will happen and I'll see, yeah, I was right about that. And now I listen. I don't ignore anymore. I listen and I watch it play out. I'm like, yep, I knew they were going to do that, or I knew this was going to happen, or I'll know why they're doing it. Yeah. And I don't always confront them. I just be nice. I be kind.
Well, yeah.
And
move on with your own happy, healthy, functional life. I wanted to also say, I think people like us also serve as a touchstone. Now, touchstone is I don't know what it's made out of, but it's a kind of stone. And back in the day, before they had technology, and they wanted to see if something was actually gold or fake gold, and they would rub it across this touchstone. And depending on the pattern and the traces that were left on the stone, they could tell what element that was actually made out of. They didn't just have to believe that it was gold. And so by us rubbing shoulders with these people, we're acting as touchstones. They are being revealed as to who and what they are. And that's none of my business.
No, I mean, I remember especially in like love relationships when I was young, I got hurt real bad by a few people, and they always came back. I mean, like their life was rock bottom. They told me they lost everything. I mean, I can't even make it up. It was shocking to me. It was a pattern. I'm like, I'm so sorry that happened, but it's been 5 years, and I had that happen a lot. And even, I see it even with, not just relationships, but, coworkers, whatever. And they come back and want to be nice and want me to give them, help them in some way. And I usually still help, even though I don't. Oh my
goodness.
I still help.
I don't so much anymore, simply because I'm still recovering from burnout, and I just don't have it. It's not, it's because I was like that I ended up the way I am now. Yeah. But it's
you got to protect yourself, and I'm a lot better at it. But man, the person I was before, the old Carmen is what I call it, and then how I am now are very different. And so I feel like I have more boundaries, and I stand up for myself, and I trust my intuition, and I just am cautious. I'm friendly with everybody in social, but inside I know who I can trust and who I can't. And then I'm like, and most people like me, but some absolutely hate me instantly. And it's nothing that I've done. And it's my part. I know that it's like people either really drawn, and I got to the point where people would tell me all these secrets, and they would just start sharing with me. And I'm like, and I got to where I said, okay, wait, don't tell me if you're going to regret it. If you're going to tell me this, I want you to still be comfortable around me, because we've been hanging out, going to lunch or whatever, because they pushed me away. Once they'd reveal these secrets that they had, and I would never repeat them. I was trustworthy. They just felt uncomfortable around me because they revealed deeper energies. And that's an 8th house, 12th house thing in my research as well. That it's our energy. It's like a moth to the flame. There's something.
But I never signed up to be anybody's priest. And I got to tell you, it feels invasive when people want to come and dump, their sins on me. And I'm like left like,
I know.
What the heck? And then I have to deal with the disturbing images they've left planted in my head. And I
Yes.
don't think that's not love either. That's not love. I don't know what that is, but I don't like doing that either. I'm as I'm getting older, I gotta tell you, post-menopause, there's something magical happens. We're not as
Oh, good. Good.
chemically driven or hormonally driven, and
I'm
we can
looking forward
start
to that.
not caring what other people think,
Yeah.
dressing how we want to dress because it's
Yeah.
comfortable for us, and not
Yeah.
going to big traditional dinners because we just don't like it,
Yeah.
and
Hey,
everything changes. It gets
I like it.
better.
I can't
Old
wait.
people have superpowers. I've done videos on it. We have so
Yeah,
many superpowers. It's exciting, most
it
wonderful
is.
time of our life.
It is. I'm excited to be at that, to get there too. And I just think that, my goal is just to open up people's minds, that, and be me. And, people can judge me and think I'm a goofball. And I really don't care, because I know that what I do helps people on a deeper way.
Mhm.
And I know that what I'm doing it because I have a passion for it and I want to help other people. And that's why I do it,
Mhm.
and I really love, the writing thing is something that I knew I was meant to write. And, I kind of stopped doing consults for many years. I didn't do consults anymore. And I was
Mhm.
kind of burned out, really. And so
Mhm.
just really lately, I've been doing charts here or there. But I can't do them for everyone. There's some folks that I'm blocked with. If I'm able to do a consult, I'll know
Yeah.
it. And then so I'll refund people. So I'm sorry, but I'm blocked. I'm not allowed to do your chart. It's hard to explain. I tell them it's not you, it's the energy, and there's a reason. I'm not
Oh
able to do
yeah.
everybody's charts. And so I have a wait list right now, and I feel bad because I am so behind. I'm just busy with work and writing the book and marketing this book. But eventually, if the time's right, I'll be able to do some consults here and there. But I just don't have the time or the energy to do 8 a week like I used to. When I was young, I used to
Oh,
do
that's
8
a lot.
and I
That's
and,
a
and I
lot.
worked full time too. I worked a normal
Yeah,
job. I
that's
just
a
can't
lot.
I can't do it. I don't want to do that anymore. I want to balance, I want to,
Yeah.
I kind of want the freedom to pick and choose what I'm going to do, each day, and not have that committed to the schedule,
Yeah, I
it's kind of,
totally get it. Totally get it. Now,
yeah.
Carmen, we're quickly running out of time. So what I was hoping you could do now is anything we haven't talked about that you want to share about your book, about the work that you do, about any of your books, anything at all. I want to give you a chance to say it, and then I will have the links below. But for those that are listening to this on an audio only podcast, do you want to actually in voice say what your links are, like your website or where to find you, so people know where to find you quite easily?
Okay. Yeah, I just got a new website launched over Christmas. So it's www.carmenturnerschott.com. And my last name's spelled a little strange. It's SCHOTT. So carmenturnerschott.com. And that has all my books. I have a blog with all my articles on there and information about consults if you want to contact me. All my podcast interviews are in the media section. You can watch all my interviews that I've done on my books or different topics on astrology. And then I'd love for you guys to join my Facebook groups. I have a group called Eighth House Deep Soul Divers and the 12th Astrological House groups on Facebook. And if you Google, 12th house astrology, 8th house astrology, you'll be able to find them. They got over 13,000 people in them. And join and let me know when you answer the questions that you heard the podcast or whatever. And I'll add you to the group. And it's like support group for people that want to learn about the basics, people that have spiritual experiences, interested in all these things, please join. And then my books, I have 2 new books coming out this summer. So my first book, as we talked about, was Moon Signs, Houses, and Healing. And it's available for pre-order on Amazon.com right now, Barnes and Noble, everything. You can pre-order it as a purple cover, and it'll be shipped to you May 8th, which is the release date. And then I have a book coming out in end of July called Phoenixes and Angels, Mastering the 8th and 12th Astrological Houses. And so I'm not really talking about that book as much yet, but I'm going to be, and it is also available for pre-order on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and everywhere too. And both will be on Kindle and paperback version. So love for you, follow me on Facebook, Carmen Turner-Schott, author. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter, Carmen Turner-Schott. And follow me, Deep Soul Divers Astrology. Carmen Turner-Schott is my Facebook page. It's been around a while. Love for you to follow me. I post videos, different events I'm doing, different classes, book signings, things like that on there. And would love to connect with you. And you can email me through my website at www.carmenturnerschott.com, and it'll come right in, and I'll email you back if you have any questions or anything.
Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Well, Carmen, it's been really nice to have you on this show, the Quantum Guide Show. It was also lovely to have you on our Aliens and Astrology podcast. I'm hoping you will come back again, and maybe we could have you back in about a month or 6 weeks or so, and you can do another promotion for your book.
Yeah.
And for those who didn't get a chance to watch this episode. Anyway, it's just been lovely, absolutely lovely. Please do stay connected, and I hope you have a really good week. This will be out in the morning, and I'll send you the link.
Okay.
And I want to thank all the viewers also for joining us, because without you, I wouldn't have a show. So I appreciate you all very, very much. Please do like, share, and subscribe to my channels. I'm also now available on Rumble, and I'm available on Telegram, and I'm available on Odyssey. And that has those platforms have all my uncensored content. And then, of course, I'm on YouTube, Karen Holton TV. But all my content may or may not be there depending on the whims of YouTube. But anyway, thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you, Carmen. I just appreciate you so much. I'm so glad to have you in my circle of friends. Take good care, and we'll see you all next week, everybody, on the Quantum Guide Show. Bye-bye. Thank you for joining us on the Quantum Guide Show. Become the change that you wish to see in the world. Subscribe to my YouTube, Odyssey, and Telegram channels. Like this video and share it with your friends. You can also find the Quantum Guide Show and my other podcast called Aliens and Astrology on the Forbidden Knowledge News Network. That's www.forbiddenknowledge.news. And while you're at it, check out my website, www.karenholtonhealthcoach.com, where you will find some amazing products and services and an abundance of free resources to help you with your journey. All of the links are in the description below. And in the meantime, until we see you next week, keep up the good work.
Puts all my inner strife to rest, for time gives birth to hurriedness. It all makes sense, well, more or less, and the sages put me to their test. With heart and soul I do my best to find the answers to my quest. I wonder and I must confess, I don't know where it comes from, but I know it's okay. If this is all an illusion, then I'm willing to play. It's okay. It's okay.